Okay. Good morning and welcome to my classroom here at home. We're going to be reviewing order of operations today, and if you look right here on my paper, I have the steps to the order of operations, also known as PEMDAS. Notice how easily it is to say that word, PEMDAS. It just kind of rolls off your tongue there. So let's review the steps here. We have the parentheses. That's the first step, right? It's on top, just like we read from top to bottom, left to right. We have the parentheses, which also could include the brackets. The second step in the order of operations is the exponents. While we don't do exponents in fifth grade, you will shortly do that when you get into sixth grade. The next step here, you'll notice that we have multiplication and division on the same line. Now, it's important to remember for these particular two operations, one does not have precedent or more importance than the other. We choose the operation that is on the left in the expression. That's the one we saw first. Same thing is true for the addition and subtraction. Addition is not more important than subtraction, or subtraction is not more important than addition. We always start with the one that's on the left in the expression. Now, why is it that we have it in this particular order? PEMDAS. Well, quite honestly, I think it's because if not, we wouldn't have a nice, neat little word to say. PEMDAS is easy to say. PEDMASA is not very easy to say. So it makes sense that we say PEMDAS, right? But we can still use this formula also. We can use these steps. We can have the division before the multiplication or the subtraction before the addition, because it doesn't matter when it gets to the problem. It's what's in the expression, and we start on the left, that matters. Okay, so let's look at our first problem that we are going to solve here. Okay, now you'll notice that I have two columns. Probably should have done this in class. I probably should have made you do a T-chart here to keep your work separate from where we rewrite the expression. I think both steps are important, and they're important to keep separate to keep your thoughts organized. All right. So let's look at the expression here. The first thing that I notice is that I have parentheses. I have a division symbol, and I have multiplication. So going back to our steps here of PEMDAS, well, P is first. So I'm going to underline what I'm solving first. I'm going to solve what's in parentheses, otherwise known as simplifying. I'm going to simplify 67, take away 18. So 7 minus 8, bigger bottom, right? So bigger bottom, better borrow. So 17, take away 8, that is 9. 5, take away 1 is 4. All right, so I simplified. Now I rewrite 49. Bring the rest of this down. Divided by 7 times 3. Okay, now going back to these steps, notice I have division and I have multiplication. Again, going back to the order here, we always choose the one that is on the left side, right? On the left side. So that's what I'm going to solve next. 49 divided by 7. Now, I could come over here and solve this calculation, but what I'll quickly notice is that this is a fact family. This is one that we should already know. 7 times 7 equals 49. So 49 divided by 7 equals 7. So I'm going to rewrite and simplify that part of the expression. 7 times 3. And 7 times 3 is 21. And that is your final answer. Now, that is an easy problem, right? It's kind of a review for us, but it gets a little bit more complicated. So I have a second problem here that will look a little bit more difficult for you, because you know fifth grade work is much more complicated than the earlier grade levels, and this will prepare you, this type of problem will prepare you much more for 6th grade. Now, looking at this particular problem here, I'm going to write my steps here, PEMDAS. I'm going to box those in because remember, we work from left to right. Let's look at this particular problem here. I notice that we have a 5 on a bracket. I have a 3 that's next to these parentheses, a 6, take away 4. Oh, look at this. We have a 6 that has no decimal, that we're taking away a number that has a decimal. So we have to make sure that we show our work and do our work appropriately. So let's decide on what we're going to do first. Remember, we start with the parentheses. So I have brackets and I have parentheses within these brackets. So the very first thing that I'm going to solve is this particular step. Now, 6 does not have a decimal after it, so I have to remember to write in the decimal, and it goes to 0 to hold my place value, because I'm taking away 4 and 5/10. And when we are subtracting, we have to make sure we line up the place values. Very important step here. We won't get it correct if we don't solve this particular step correctly. All right, 0 take away 5. Well, bigger bottom, better borrow. 5, 10. 5 take away 4 is 1. So we have 1 and 5/10. So now I'm going to take this simplified version and rewrite everything. I'm going to rewrite everything with the simplified answer here. And now I'm ready to make the next decision. All right, so you notice I still have my brackets, I still have my parentheses, and I have this 3 that is hugging this parentheses. And remember what we learned in school. When you see a number hugging a parentheses or a bracket, that means that we're going to multiply. And in fact, I turn that parentheses into a big multiplication symbol. We're going to multiply 3 times 1 and 5/10. Okay, so that is the step that I'm going to solve next. Now multiply 1 and 5/10 times 3. One digit behind a decimal, and only 1 digit behind a decimal in the final product. So the answer is 4 and 5/10. So now I'm going to replace this simplified answer here. Okay, so make sure that I've rewritten everything correctly. I don't want to change any of these symbols. I have a 5 on the outside of the bracket, and I have a subtraction problem inside. Now, I know that the rules of PEMDAS states that we multiply before we subtract, and I have a multiplication problem here because the 5 is hugging the bracket. But remember, we solve what's inside the parentheses before the outside. So that means that we're going to subtract 4 and 5/10, take away 3. Oh, there's that 0 in the decimal for place value holder. So I subtracted, simplified, and let's rewrite it. So now I've simplified. Now I only have one operation left. Now ask yourself, what does it mean when I have that 5 hugging the outside of that bracket? You're right, it means to multiply. So I'm going to multiply these last two. 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2, 5, 6, 7, 1 digit behind a decimal, 7.5. So the final answer is 7 and 5/10. So there's a couple practice problems. We will have some work posted for you on Google Classroom. If you have any questions, feel free to contact Mr. Swain, Mrs. Devereaux, or myself, and we can set up a meeting and we can actually meet with you face-to-face over Zoom. All right, get busy.